How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Pites, Daf 89 of Masechta Nedarim. Friends, we're almost at the end of Masechta Nedarim. L'maaseh. I mean, we got 3 daf left. Crazy. All right, and then we start Masechta Nazir. What are you guys ready for Masechta Nazir? Well, ready or not, here we come, friends. As you know already, you've been doing this for 3 years. Daf Yomi doesn't wait for anybody. We finish Nedarim, the next day we're on Nazir. That's the way we do things around here. We hustle. Let's go weiter. So on Daf Peiches Amud Beis at the Mishnah, 3 lines in the bottom. V'neder amanu grusha yakum aleo. So the pasuk says that the vow of a widow or a divorcee, she's got to keep, right? Meaning pashup pshat is that if she's a widow or a divorcee, she doesn't have a husband. If she doesn't have a husband, there's nobody to be made for the neder. So memele, any neder that she makes, if she says she's not eating pizza, well, I might say I had pizza today. Okay. So Ketzad. But listen to this. The assumption, however, is that it's obvious that a widow or a divorcee, there's no afaris nedarim. There's no husband. Memele, there's no afaris nedarim. So what's the pasuk really telling us? Omra areini nazira la'achar shloshim yom niz givaldik. If she says that I'm going to be a nazira in 30 days. In 30 days from now, I'm going to be a nazira. You hear this? If she says that she's going to be a nazira in 30 days from now at the time that she makes the neder, she's not married. But within these next 30 days, she gets married. Which means that on the day that the neder kicks in, on the day that she becomes a nazira, she's married. Can her husband be meifir? No. That is what the chiddush of the pasuk is. That even though she got married, and at the time that the neder kicks in, she's married. But at the time that she made the neder, she was not married, and there was no husband. So then it's the husband cannot be meifir, and she can't eat pizza. Oh no! I'm sorry. In this case, it's not about pizza; it's about being a nazir. She can't drink wine. Another intense predicament. Nadra v'hi b'rshus habal. Now, if it's punkt fakert, if she made the neder that when she's married, right? She's married and she makes a neder that she's going to be a nazira. Meifir la, the husband could be meifir. Ketzad. Omra areini nazira la'achar lamed. If she says that she's going to be nazira in 30 days from now and she's married. Afal pishin is amro nizgarsha b'soch lamed. Even though within the 30 days she got divorced or became a widow, harei zeh muffer, it's muffer. So if she said that she's going to be a nazira in 30 days from now, and her husband says no, and he's made for the neder, even though in 30 days from now, when the neder was set to kick in, he's gestorben, he's in Wellwood, he's dead, or he's divorced, nonetheless, the afara stands and comes 30 days from now, the day when it's meant to kick in, and the husband's not around, still he was already made for it, and there's no neder. So, okay, Nadra bo bayom v'nizgashi bo bayom echzir bo bayom eno yachol lehafer. That if she made a neder, she's married, a married woman, she says she's not going to eat pizza, then they get divorced, they get remarried that same day. The husband cannot be made for the neder, because that if she goes out on her own at any point, then the husband can no longer be made for the neder, because you can't, right? A baal eino made for bekodmin. He can't be made for pre-existing nedar, and therefore, when they get remarried, this was a pre-existing neder from the first marriage, and therefore he can't be made for it. Okay, fine. So we see from our Mishnah that everything seems to be going based on the time of the neder, right? If when she makes a neder she's not married, even though at the time that the neder kicks in she is married, there's no afaris nedarim. If at the time that she made the neder she is married, even though at the time that the neder kicks in she's no longer married, the afara from when she was married counts. Okay, fine. And then we said that if she gets divorced and then remarried, he can't be made for her, because if she goes out of her husband's reshus at any point, he can no longer be mefer. Fine. Says the Gemara, Tanya, we learn in the Brisa, Amona ugrusha she'omra. If you have a widow or a divorcee who said, Hareini Nazira lichshe enose v'nises. You hear this, friends? She says that she's going to be a Nazira when she gets married. So right now she's not married, and she says, so unlike our Mishnah where she says she's going to be a Nazira in 30 days from now, so then she's a Nazira and the husband cannot be made for it even in 30 days when they're married. But in this case, she's not saying that she's going to be a Nazira in 30 days from now. She's saying that she's going to be a Nazira when she gets married. So like the marriage is like part of the condition. Rabbi Shmuel Omer Yofer. Rabbi Shmuel says actually he can be mefer the neder, even though at the time that she made it, she was not married. For Rabbi Akiva Omer Lo Yofer. Whereas Rabbi Akiva says he cannot be mefer the neder. When she made the neder, she was not married. The husband, and then when she gets married, the husband cannot be made for it. Skip the next two words. Eishes ish she'amra hareini nazira lichshe esgarish. If you have a married woman and she says, I'm going to be a nazira when I get divorced, vinis karsha, and she gets divorced, Rabbi Shmuel Omer lo yofer. Rabbi Shmuel says that the husband cannot be made for that nether because she's basing it on, right, it's only going to kick in at a time when they are no longer married. Rabbi Akiva Omer yofer. Whereas Rabbi Akiva says that the husband can be made for the nether because at the time that she made the nether, they were married. Omer Rabbi Shmuel says, Rabbi Shmuel Areu Omer. Rabbi Shmuel says, look, the pasuk says v'neder almona ugrusha v'gomer. That the pasuk says that the neder of an almona and a grusha achye neder b'shas almonus v'gerishin. That if the almona, right, that the neder, when it's right, if it's going to be chal, she's going to be right, it's going to take place if she's an almona at the time of the divorce, right? So therefore, if she right, if the neder at the time of the almonus v'gerishin, so meaning if she's now married, but she says that she's going to be a nazira when she gets divorced, and that's when the neder is going to be, so then there's no forest nedarim. Rabbi Akiva Savar, whereas Rabbi Akiva holds, Harei Omer, the pasuk says, Kol asher osra al nafsha, everything that she was osra al nafsha, achye isurei neder b'shas amonus v'gerishin, that the isur of the neder needs to be at the time of amonus v'gerishin, but in this case, she made the neder when she was still married, even though she said that it's going to only kick in when she gets divorced, but at the time that she accepted upon herself the neder, that she made the neder, she was still married, so therefore it would not count as a therefore the husband would be able to be made for it. Omar Rav Chizda says, Rav Chizda Masnisin Rabbi Akiva he. So Rav Chizda wants to say that our Mishnah seems to be Rabbi Akiva, right? Because if we look at this brisa, for example, it had said that if you have an unmarried woman who says that I'm going to be a nazira when I get married. And right now she's an unmarried woman, and she's saying that she's going to be a nazira when she gets married. Rabbi Shmuel says that the husband can be mefer, whereas Rabbi Akiva says the husband cannot be mefer. So we seem to be saying that Rabbi Akiva is the one who's saying that if right now she is not married, so then the husband in the future cannot be made for the neder. That seems to be just like our Mishnah, where we're saying that she makes a neder when she's not married, and she says that she's going to be a nazira in 30 days, even though in 30 days from now she's already married, and that's when the neder kicks in. Still, our Mishnah says that the husband cannot be made for that neder because she made it when she was not married. So that seems to be like Rabbi Akiva. It sounds like Rabbi Shmuel would say that if when the neder kicks in she's married, the husband would be able to be made for the neder. Omar says, Abaye afilu temer Rabbi Shmuel. Abaye says you can even say that our Mishnah is Rabbi Shmuel, because masnisin tal yonafsha b'yomei, brisa tal yonafsha b'nisuin. Because our Mishnah makes it all about just the number of days, whereas the brisa that Rabbi Shmuel is commenting on is actually about the marriage, right? Tal yonafsha b'nisuin, right? In the brisa, her stipulation is that she's going to be a nazira when she gets married, and therefore because she's baking the marriage into the stipulation, therefore Rabbi Shmuel would say that the husband who she got married to, and which triggered the naziras to kick in, he can be made for the neder. Whereas in our Mishnah, it has nothing to do with the marriage, it has to do with days, right? It could be that nothing's going to change over this amount of time. right? It could be that, she's making a neder when she is unmarried, and she's saying that she's going to be Nazir in 30 days. For all we know, in another 30 days, she won't be married, and she still won't be married. And therefore, there's nothing indicating over here that the husband should have the ability to be mefer that neder. And therefore, maybe even Rabbi Yishmael would agree with our Mishnah that the husband, in the event that they get married within the next 30 days, Rabbi Yishmael would agree that the husband would be unable to be mefer that neder. Shamuyome v'lo nizgarsha shamuyome v'lo nasba. Right, in our Mishnah, right, in the second case in our Mishnah, when you have a married woman, and she, as a married woman, she says that in 30 days, she's going to be a Nazira. And in our Mishnah we said, then comes 30 days and she got divorced or her husband died or whatever, and we're saying that the Afara still counts. But for all we know, those 30 days could have passed and she would have still been married. And therefore, it makes sense to say that in our Mishnah the husband would be able to be mefer, as opposed to in that Brisa where she's dafka making the condition based on them not being married anymore, right? She's going to be Nazira if they get divorced. So in that case, the husband cannot be mefer. But in our Mishnah, there's no, right, for all we know, in 30 days she'll still be married, and therefore even Rabbi Yishmael would admit that the husband would be able to be mefer that neder. Okay, so now says the Gemara that our Mishnah had said at the end, that once his wife goes out from, right, on her own, at some point, he can no longer be made for the neder. If they get divorced, at some point, he can no longer be made for the neder. So if she says she's not going to eat pizza, then they get divorced and remarried on that same day, he cannot be made for the neder. Now, 18 daf ago, 2.5 weeks ago, we saw in daf Ayin Aleph Mud Aleph that we said at the end of a different Mishnah, that if she did not, as long as she did not leave her, into her own rishus, so as long as she did not leave, then her father and her husband can be made for her Nedarim if she's me'orasa, if she's engaged, a Nedarim me'orasa. So now, says the Gemara, Ze'aklal de katoni gabi Nedarim me'orasa. So when it says Ze'aklal in the parak of Nedarim me'orasa, that as long as she's still, right, she's not in her own rishus, so gabi Nedarim me'orasa li'isuye, it's coming to include halacha av im shluchei abal, if her father went along with the messengers of the husband, o shehalchu shluchei av im shluchei abal, or the messengers of the father went with the messengers of the husband. So in that case, if she's still in the rishus of the father, right, if her father's still with the husband, or with the messengers of the husband, or the messengers of the father are still with the messengers of the husband, so then the father and the husband are still made for the Nedarim together. Ze'aklal de katani gabi ve'elu Nedarim, and over here when it says Ze'aklal le'isuye moser av l'shluchei abal, that if the father gave his daughter to the messengers of the husband, o shemasru shluchei av l'shluchei abal, or the messengers of the father delivered her to the messengers of the husband, in that case, she'ena bal mefer b'kodmin, at that point the husband would no longer be able to be mefer anything from prior. Okay, fine. She wouldn't be considered in the father's rishus anymore, and the father would be unable to be mefer the Nedarim anymore now that she is married to the husband. Okay, fine. Now we get to a new Mishnah. This new Mishnah is like a shtickle weird, I guess. So, okay, the interesting things is like, the main thing that you need to know is that there are 3 situations in which a father cannot be mefer his daughter's Nedarim. One is if he's not alive, right? If you have a Yisoma, she doesn't have a father, so then Mamela, he can't be made for her Nedarim. Another is the concept that we've seen before, is Yisoma b'chaya of. We've seen this before, I think, in the context of Meyun, right, where like father. Well, I believe in the context of Meyun you can have Yisoma b'chaya of in the context of Meyun. But basically, Yisoma b'chaya of is that if you have a Ketana or a Naira who gets married, so once she gets married, she's out, she leaves the rishus of her father. So even if she gets divorced, she doesn't go back into his rishus. So therefore, he can't be made for her Nedarim anymore. So Yisoma B'chaya Av. So we said an actual Yisoma for father passed away, or Yisoma B'chaya Av that she got married and therefore she leaves the rishus of her father, and even if she gets divorced or widowed, she doesn't go back into the rishus and he can't be made for her in Nedarim. And alternatively, a bogeres, if she's already 12 and a half or older, so then the father can't be made for her in Nedarim anymore. She's an adult. So now, those are the three kind of main ones. Now the Mishnah gives breaks them up in kind of weird ways, and the Ran says that even this isn't literal. Like there's really those three that I just mentioned. This is, as the Ran says, it says L'chadid gwenis atamidim. We're going to see in the Gemara that this is Rabbi Yehuda's opinion, and he even said it just to, work the people's brains. So, all right, Teisha Nairas Nedrain Koyam. So we're saying that there are three Nairas whose neders, there's nobody to be made for them. Bogeres vi Yisoma. Okay, so this one is if she's, oh my gosh, it feels like the first Mishnah of Yevamis trying to figure out what's what. I barely even remember what's what. Remember, the key is the three that I said. So now these are just like weird brain exercises. So let's see. So Bogeres vi Yisoma. So if she, right, so I think in this, so the first three are Yisoma B'chaya Av. So like if she is this like basically just like the Yisoma B'chaya Av one? Yeah. Well, okay, fine. She is a bogeres and she's like married, so memele the father can't be made for the nedarim. Fine. Naira uvagra vi Yisoma. So you have a naira and then she becomes a bogeres. So then the father doesn't have any rishus over her. Naira shelo bagra, or you have a naira who didn't become a bogeres, so she's just a naira vi Yisoma vihi Yisoma, but she got married, so she's a Yisoma b'chaya of. Okay, fine. Bogeres umeis avia. Okay, if you have a bogeres whose father is dead. All right. Naira bogeres umeis avia. If you have a naira who I think becomes a bogeres and her father's dead. Okay. Naira shelo bagra umeis avia, or just a naira whose father's dead. Okay. Naira shemeis avia umishemeis avia bagra. Okay, a naira whose father died and then she became a bogeres. Bogeres v'avia kayim, or just a bogeres, okay. Naira bogeres v'avia kayim, and think a naira who became a bogeres and her father's around, so now she's a bogeres. Okay, fine. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Afa Mesis Amasis Bito Aktana Vinis Almana. So Rabbi Yehuda says that also if a person marries off his daughter and she's a katana and she becomes a widow on his garsha, she gets divorced v'chazru etzlo and goes back to her father's house, a daini naira, right? She would still be v'daini naira. She would still be a yisoma b'chaya of, right? So if she's a katana, where am I? Right. So if she's a katana, and then she gets married, so even if she gets divorced or widowed, still she would be a Yisoma B'chaye Ha'av. Says the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Rav, Zotiv Rabbi Yehuda, that this complicated, confusing Mishnah is Rabbi Yehuda's opinion of a Chacham. The Chacham say Shalosh Naris Nitrein Kayom B'Geres V'Yisoma B'chaye Ha'av. But the Chacham say that it's the three that I had mentioned. A Bogeres, if she's an adult, so then the father can't be made for a Nedarim anymore. V'Yisoma. Or if she's an orphan, she doesn't have a father to be made for the Nedarim. V'Yisoma B'chaya Av. Or if she is a Ketana, but then she gets married, and when she gets married, she leaves the rishus of her father, and the father can no longer be made for her, even if she gets divorced or widowed. Fine. Those are the three. Friends, that was the Peites of Masechta Nedarim. I hope you enjoyed. Peace out.